What's up guys, Max here, back with an interesting development that's happened over the past week with Street Fighter. Some of you guys aren't keeping up, there has been some interesting changes to the latest build that was shown off in some videos regarding a few characters in Street Fighter V. Now these changes aren't what you normally would expect between nerfs, buffs, balance adjustments, frame data, things like that. It was literally camera angles, and it was camera angles to hide certain things that were shown in previous builds. The two characters we're talking about are specifically Cammy and Armika, and if you remember from the previous videos we might have shown on this channel, there's some very specifically lewd things about the characters. Cammy has a shot of her diving in with a very low crotch shot of her landing into the stage, and Armika famously has the butt slap before she goes into the two-butt super. And funny enough, in the latest build, this was actually removed. The characters still perform these actions, but the camera angles do not show nearly as much as they did before, and completely removing Armika's butt slap where it's now off screen and you hear it. And this caused quite a bit of an uproar with a bit of the audience because some people like that aspect of some characters. Now this makes total sense, but I kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on the situation because Street Fighter V is in kind of a unique situation with the fact that we're playing the game a hell of a lot before it comes out. Probably more so than any fighting game I've ever seen. We've played so much Street Fighter V between all the beta builds and stuff like that that it's actually quite crazy, and development stuff happens. Like, things change quite a bit during this process of development, and even some ex-Capcom employees have said that these changes do get made. There's a very high chance that this stuff is possible to change over time, and even though you've played it in a beta, it will change, and we've already seen several things change with characters in terms of balancing, and a lot of people are making that suggestion now, which we'll talk about in other videos. But this one is specifically kind of crazy because it falls under that spectrum of censorship, where these characters are specifically being censored, and we gotta think of the reasons why. The biggest reason why is that they receive too much flack about the over-sexualization of a couple female characters. And I would agree, like, Cammy and, Cammy not so much. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember the original sprite of Cammy in Super Street Fighter 2. She's pretty dang lewd, and in comparison to other characters that have appeared in other fighting games, she's really not that bad. Cammy's always been kind of a pretty much naked character with a leotard on, and Armika was kind of exemplified in a way, a step above what she is in Street Fighter Alpha 3, but she was always still a pretty damn lewd character in Street Fighter Alpha 3. It's just that now the camera angles are showing things a lot more than you could with the 2D sprites before, so I get why people are kind of upset about this because technically they are hiding things, and I think that is actually the bad way to go about it. I'm not specifically looking forward to the games for the reasons that some people might be for some of these characters, like the lewd aspects, but some people do, and there's entire game franchises that kind of thrive off that, like the Dead or Alive series. But that doesn't account for the entire fan base. Like, there's a good big fighting game behind all that stuff. It's just that some people like that aspect of some characters, and that's not a bad thing by any means. It's a good reason to watch certain movies because it has certain people because they're sexy or something like that. That's not a problem, it's just human freaking nature. But censoring it is kind of the problem. They chose to do something specifically about it where a lot of people were like, wow, look at that butt slap, or wow, look at Cammy and all this stuff. It's kind of an issue, and I think Capcom might have handled that incorrectly, and it could actually receive a change up until launch, because if it was a response to people complaining the fact that they have some over-sexualized characters, this might not be the best response, because it kind of just makes people upset that you're taking things away from the game. Like I said, I hope that maybe we might see a change in the future, but the funny thing is, in regard to all of this, is that I don't feel Capcom needed to make the change. And there's actually a very, very, very specific reason for that. I think, like, equality is a great thing. You like to have equals for full sides, and there's a lot of male fan service, you know, with males, like, looking towards, like, certain female characters that are kind of, like, a bit more naked or a bit more sexy, and Mika and Cammy kind of fall in that category. Then you have other characters that could have easily had been over-sexualized, like, I don't know, Karen or something like that, and she's totally fine. They didn't do anything to her. She's actually wearing more clothes than most characters are in the entire game. So they're not doing this to every single female character, only the ones it kind of makes sense to, which is a combat chick and a Japanese wrestler who usually don't wear that many clothes anyway. So with that in mind, I don't think it's a problem, and I especially don't think it's a problem because there is already a pretty decent amount of equality with sexualized characters in Street Fighter V, and some of you guys already might have forgotten about this. I think it's okay that Mika and Cammy are kinda sexy because there's also hot Ryu. And even though I kind of actually really like the design of Ryu, I'm not physically attracted to the guy, but a lot of people did like the fact that there is this hot Ryu, this one that could actually appeal to multiple demographics that aren't just male straight gamers. So for that reason, I feel like there's already a kind of a decent balance. You know, Ryu is this different version that you're used to seeing in most games, and this version is attractive to something that's different than the demographic than they usually go for, which is like Mika and Cammy. So there's already a bit of a balance. Like they've already actually provided something that is equal across all regards and isn't just blatantly, I don't know, sexualizing one gender. So it doesn't seem, I don't know why they chose to change it at that point, because it seems fine to me. And other games have done this as well. I don't know if you guys remember Dead or Alive 5. We actually played the game where you can buy bikini costumes for all the characters, like all the female characters. But guess what? You can also buy bikini costumes for all the freaking male characters, and that makes it completely okay. It doesn't make it more of like, it doesn't make it any less of a lewd game. It just takes out the fact that you're targeting one very specific demographic and one very specific gender, but all of a sudden you do it for both sides and, oh, that's fine. Yeah, I actually feel that that's totally okay. And in that same respect, I feel what they've done with Hot Ryu is a really good example. The fact that you can have a cool design and also cater to multiple different types of demographics without really like objectifying one or making people feel alienated or something like that. So what I'm trying to say is, I hope Capcom actually changes it back, because they're already satisfying both sides with some character designs in Street Fighter V. Either way, it caused a lot of ruckus with a lot of people. It really doesn't change my outlook on the game, because either Hot Ryu, Cammy, or Miko was making me specifically like want to play those characters based on their kind of like looks and stuff like that. They look fine. The stuff they do isn't as crazy as other games, but the big problem is that Capcom might have had the ESRB breathing down their necks about the ratings of the game, because it already mentions like the two-player jiggle. It already mentions several things that's happening within certain characters as far as lewdness, and they might have been having some flack in regards to characters slapping their butts and a very perverse camera angles around some intros and stuff like that, where they actually had to tone it down, which makes complete sense. If they were going to have a Street Fighter game that was going to be borderline mature, then they would definitely want to add a lot more stuff if they're going to do a mature game, or just potentially tone it down back to a teen game, which Street Fighter has been since the rating system came into existence. I still remember when I bought my copy of Super Street Fighter 2 that it was actually a teen-rated game for blood and violence. I was like, what the heck, this is crazy. It was the first introduction of those that kind of rating system. I remember having to tell my mom about it and stuff like that. Very weird. So that could have had an impact of them trying to avoid the fact that Street Fighter V could have gotten a higher rating than teen, which would have been really bad. I don't think Street Fighter is a mature rated game by any means. There's only one Capcom game that deserves that if it does exist in the future, and it's called Darkstalkers. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your opinions as far as the censored versions of what happened with Mika and Cammy. But alongside that, let me know what you think about other characters like the super attractive bearded Ryu that everyone seems to really like. Let me know if you're okay with that equality kind of thing as well. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.